Today I want to talk about how much house you can afford based on your income and your overall financial picture. I feel this question has become a lot more relevant in recent years because we've seen Milwaukee home prices go up quite a bit, actually every single year. And at the same time, we have also seen mortgage rates a lot higher than they used to be. And the combination of higher prices and higher cost of financing, of course, creates higher monthly payments. And that really makes you want to think twice about your housing budget. The question becomes, what is actually a smart budget for your personal situation? Because just because you get a higher pre-approval letter or you can afford a more expensive house, is it actually smart and wise to do so? So that's what I want to talk about today. I have 4 things that I want to walk through that are a little bit more technical. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. We're going to talk about debt to income ratio, about your down payment and what are typical down payment requirements. We're talking about credit scores, and last but not least, about mortgage rates and what can we expect from mortgage rates. And also, I have a few examples prepared for you, and we're going to take a look at an app so you can calculate monthly payments on your own, and you can get a little bit of an intuitive feel on how that actually works. Before you start browsing through listings, you really want to have a good understanding of your financial options. You want to know what is my minimum budget and what is, at least technically speaking, my maximum budget, even if you're planning on keeping it more conservative and not maxing out on how much you can afford. How much house you can buy depends really on 2 things. One is the size of your down payment, and the other one is how much money you can borrow from the bank. And how big of a mortgage a lender is willing to give you depends on a financial metric that is called debt to income ratio, or short DTI. And the debt to income ratio is really just a measure of your monthly debt payments compared to your monthly gross income. Lenders are typically looking for a DTI somewhere in the range of maximum 43 to 45%, depends on the mortgage product. And the sweet spot for most people is probably between 30 and 40%. A lender will typically calculate the DTI for you, but if you want to do it yourself, it's really not very complicated. You simply start out by adding up all your monthly debt service. You can find it on your credit score, or for example, if you use Credit Karma, you can find the information there, and you simply add up all your monthly payments. If you have a car loan, if you have a student loan, if you're paying off a credit card, you add that all in, and you also want to add in an amount for a future house payment. And then you simply divide that by your monthly gross income. So that's before taxes, and you can find that number typically on top of your pay stub. If you're married and you're buying a house together, then you can also use household income. So you use the income of both you and your spouse, but be careful, you also have to consider household debt. Let me quickly walk you through an example with very simple numbers just to illustrate how this works. Let's say you have a combined gross, so before tax, monthly household income of $10,000. So you make $5,000 and your spouse makes $5,000. Now at a 43% DTI, that leaves you $4,300 out of the $10,000 for your monthly debt service. And let's say you have a $300 car payment and a $1,000 credit card payment. So that leaves you with $3,000 for a potential house payment. And just for illustration purposes, with a $3,000 house payment and 10% down, at current interest rates, you can roughly buy a $400,000 house. All right, now that you know how to calculate your DTI, let's take a look on how to calculate your monthly house payment. I use an app that's called US Mortgage Calculator. You can use any app. They basically do the same thing. But let me just quickly walk you through a few examples. So let's say you want to buy a house in West Allis for about $250,000. So we have here a purchase price with, let's say, 10% down. Then we have a mortgage for $225,000. And let's assume our interest rate is 6.5%, financed over 30 years. And then we need a few more assumptions here. So we have 3% one-time expenses. That's probably a little bit on the high side for closing costs and for home inspection. $3,500 for property taxes. That varies from property to property. So you actually have to look that up for that particular property that you're looking to buy. And that really has a big impact on your monthly payment. And then because you're not putting 20% down, you have to get PMI insurance, which is 0.625% here in our example, and homeowners insurance, I assume $1,200. That might also be a little bit on the high side. Now, when we look at the payment summary, you have here a total monthly payment of $1,931, and that breaks down here for $1,422 for principal and interest. That's for borrowing that money. Your property taxes monthly come in at $291. Your homeowner's insurance $100 and your PMI $117. So all that totals up to a payment of $1,931. And then below here, you have a total breakup of everything that you're going to pay over the life of the loan. So the red part here, that's your down payment. Then in green, this is the portion of your payments that go towards your principal. So that's basically, think of it as a piggy bank. It's like a forced savings account. You're paying down your loan every month. Then in orange, we have here property tax, with interest payments. And then in purple, we have here your property taxes and your insurance. The orange one and the purple one here, those are probably going to be tax deductions for you. So that helps you with paying your taxes. You want to talk to your CPA about this. All right, and then here you can also look at your payment schedule and how this pans out over 30 years. You can see how you're paying down the loan and how everything is structured. So it makes sense to play around with these numbers. Let's say you want to buy a house in Wauwatosa. Let's call this $450,000. Again, 10% down, that leaves you with the $405,000 loan. We have the same here. Property taxes are probably a little bit higher. I'm going to say here $5,500 because it's Tosa. And let's take a look at the payment summary. So significant change here. Now we have $3,329 estimated monthly payment. So that's $2,559 for your principal and interest. Property taxes are now $458. Again, $100 for property insurance. This might be actually a little bit on the low side now. And then PMI for $210. And then you can go through your payment schedule again. Let me run you another example. Let's say you want to buy a new construction home in Menominee Falls or in Grafton. That might be $650,000. And again, 10% down. Here's your mortgage amount. And then we'll go down. We'll probably need a little bit more on taxes here. So let's call this $7,000. And your insurance is also going to be higher. I'm going to put here, $1,800. You have to get a quote for that to see where you actually are. And now you're coming at a $4,735 total payment. So there you can see why it makes sense that you come with a higher down payment, more than 10%, because that will actually get your monthly payment down. So this is typically for your second home that you're buying when you're selling your first home, and you already bring some equity to the table. So when it comes to bigger homes, the size of the down payment really starts to impact the monthly payment. And there are a lot of stubborn misconceptions about down payments, how much you need, what programs are available, what are the implications. So we'll do some myth busting here in just a second, also about credit scores, also very important. But before we get there, let me just quickly tell you about our new Milwaukee Home Buyer's Guide. It's about 28 pages, and it has been specifically written for the Milwaukee market. As you know, it's been quite competitive over the last few years. And we put a lot of information in there that not only walks you through the process of how you're buying a home, what are the different contingencies, how to use them, but also it's designed to give you a competitive edge in this very competitive market. You can download it on our website, onpointrg.com, for free. And the other thing you can also do on the website, you can schedule a call with me, either a phone call or a Zoom call at a time that works for you, or you can also request access to the Milwaukee MLS. All right, let's talk down payment. A very popular myth and misconception is that it takes 20% down payment in order to buy a house, and that is just not correct. It may surprise you that in the US, first-time homebuyers spend on average 6% down payment, and repeat homebuyers are around 17%. So what is the significance of 20% down? When you have more than 20% down, you basically don't need to take out PMI insurance, which saves you a little bit on your monthly payment. There are a lot of conventional loan programs that are anywhere between 5 and 20% down, and you even have FHA for 3.5% down, or VA and USDA loans you can even do for 0% down. So it's good to have a strong down payment, but anywhere between 5 and 20% is usually plenty. You do not need a minimum of 20%. The next myth that I want to talk about revolves around credit score. It is just not true that you need to have perfect credit in order to qualify for a mortgage. Generally, if you have good credit, which is considered between 670 and 740, you're good to go for most mortgage programs. If you have very good credit, that would be between 740 and 800, you qualify for the lowest mortgage rates. The difference between good and very good is oftentimes around 0.25%, maybe 0.5 percentage point. And that doesn't sound like very much, but actually over time, it ends up to be a considerable amount of money. So what can you do if you have good credit and you don't want to wait until you have very good credit? One possibility is to refinance later on. A very good saying in our industry is that marry the house but date the rate, because you can always refinance. We are currently expecting mortgage rates to decrease in the future. That's at least the guidance that the Federal Reserve Bank is giving us. And I talk about this on the monthly market update. So predicting mortgage rates is notoriously very, very difficult. A lot of experts are struggling with that. Nobody knows because there are so many economic factors that go into that. But generally, the direction, the expectation is that we're going to see lower mortgage rates in the next 12 months. And if it gets to that point, it just refinance at that. Because the other thing that is happening as rates are coming down, there's also more buyers coming back into the market, which means that there is a higher level of competition, which also drives up prices even more. And you can always go back and refinance into a lower rate. If and when rates are lower, you cannot go back and refinance into a lower purchase price. In conclusion, there is a lot to consider that goes into determining the right budget range for you and for your family. But keep in mind, the most important thing is that you want to create a lifestyle for you and for your family that has a positive impact. The last thing you want to do is making buying a house a financial stress factor in your life. So you want to keep that in mind, and you want your home to be a source of comfort and security and a good lifestyle for you and your family. I hope you got some good information out of this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Maybe consider sharing it with somebody else who should be hearing this and thinking about this. And with that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.